In a viral video taken in a supermarket in Beirut's Dahiya neighborhood, we hear a loud bang. A man shopping in the produce section falls to the ground, screaming in agony. A pager in his possession has suddenly exploded, seemingly out of the blue. Shoppers are visibly panicked and scramble away. Children take cover in their mother's arms. The same state of pandemonium happens thousands of times across Lebanon, all in the same instant. The intended targets were Hezbollah members, who used pagers as a way to communicate without being detected by Israeli intelligence. By the next day, hospitals were overflowing with injuries after 2,800 people were wounded and 12 people were killed, including at least 2 children. What nobody expected is that it would happen again, the very next day. A second wave of explosions went off simultaneously across the country, this time detonating in walkie-talkies and other electronic devices. Lebanon's health ministry said at least 20 people were killed and 450 people were injured. Hezbollah has blamed Israel for the attacks, but Israel has not publicly claimed them yet. It wouldn't be the first time that Israel had conducted a deadly operation on Lebanese soil. In January, it was accused of killing Hamas's Saleh Al-Arouri in a drone strike on Beirut. In July, it assassinated Hezbollah commander Fouad Shukr. This attack may be the latest in a series of escalations of the war in Gaza, despite repeated, albeit mild warnings by the international community to contain the fighting before it gets out of hand. But how can such a large-scale attack of this nature not make a bad situation even worse? This is Beyond the Headlines, and I'm your host, Nada Al-Tahir. This week, we try to make sense of the security breach that caused the pager explosions and the implications this operation will have on the future of Lebanon and the region. For Lebanon's population, the spillover of Gaza's war has compounded their struggles as they grapple with a crumbling economy and a never-ending cycle of violence. This latest incident has unlocked a new vulnerability, making virtually no public space safe for anyone. The National's correspondent in Beirut, Nada Homsi, has been reporting on the story. Nada, can you give us a snapshot of what it's like in Lebanon in the aftermath of the pager/walkie-talkie explosions? What was the reaction by the general public?
The reaction, first of all, was utter shock. I mean, people didn't really know what was happening and didn't believe what was happening unless it happened right in front of them. For those that it happened to them right in front of them, what they saw was absolutely shocking. I mean, who can believe that they've seen pagers go off, explode, and maim or even kill those around them? So there's a massive sense that this attack in Lebanon as a whole was not just on Hezbollah, but the entire nation. And this is because, first of all, the attacks happened all over Lebanon, in Beirut, in South Lebanon, in parts of the Bekaa Valley. People saw friends, spouses, colleagues maimed and killed in front of them. They saw limbs completely separate from bodies, blood on the ground. So, like I said, I mean, imagine the sense of confusion and panic that you would have when you see a pager, which is a device that's used in the 1990s for doctors and hospitals to communicate with each other. It's a completely obsolete device that's only used by Hezbollah members, essentially, to bypass Israel's interception of their communications. No one expected the first day. Certainly no one expected the second day. They think nothing is safe anymore. If a pager or a walkie-talkie can explode, then essentially what else can? Can it be their phones, their laptops, lighters? It could be anything. So people are even afraid to use their devices. And at the same time, they're completely dependent on them.
Can you specifically tell us about the situation in hospitals that were overflowing with casualties and the kind of response from the community to help one another? We've seen that in blood drives. How else did the public respond other than the obvious state of shock, panic, and fear in terms of solidarity and camaraderie?
Everyone basically immediately started setting to work. Arab culture is very communal. I mean, everything from parallel parking. Usually there's a community of people around you telling you where to go and how to turn in order to parallel park properly. So imagine hundreds of people trying to clear the area from the site of the attack and also facilitate ambulances and paramedics towards the injured and facilitate their trips towards hospitals. And then when you're actually in the hospital, of course, there is the chaos and throngs of people, but at the same time, basically everyone was instantly turned into a volunteer where they were keeping press at bay, keeping non-essential personnel at bay in order to ensure that everyone was getting the help that they needed. The health ministry, of course, immediately rallied all of its, I mean, it said all medical staff should head to the hospitals. Hospitals should be ready for any kind of emergency situation. So, of course, the health sector rallied. But besides the fact that the health sector rallied, people rallied even before anything was said by the government. A lot of people immediately headed to hospitals, started donating blood, and even were just standing by, waiting to see if they were going to be needed or if they could facilitate anything. Some of the hospitals, they didn't just have, 10 people there. They had upwards of 50 to 100 people, all of them in various conditions, ranging from superficial wounds to death. But a lot of people were completely maimed. It was 3,000 people injured in the first attack. And a lot of those injuries, it was people missing fingers, hands. A lot of the injuries were in the eyes. People lost their eyes, people lost their vision permanently. So the death toll wasn't so high in comparison to the injuries, but the injuries were incredibly detrimental. I mean, countless people were maimed, essentially.
Can you tell us about how this specific attack stands out? We've seen a lot of shocking ones on Hezbollah in Lebanon in recent months, almost certainly presumed to be by Israel. What makes this one so surprising and especially provocative?
First of all, what makes it so provocative is the surprise nature of the attack. No one was expecting waves of handheld electronic devices to go off. But then also just the scale, the fact that it was nationwide. I mean, up until now, there's been, essentially a war between Hezbollah and Israel across the border, and it's often tipped into the range of becoming an all-out and sometimes regional war, but that's taken shape in more traditional forms that include airstrikes, bombings, shellings, rocket launches, and targeted assassinations. But the targeted assassinations, even when they happen, it's one or two people that are very targeted at a time. Now it's entire cadres of Hezbollah members. Beyond just being dismissed globally as a terrorist organization, the thing I have to remember is that Hezbollah is very much part and parcel of Lebanese society. And I think this attack really exposed how Lebanese society, its politics, its institutions, everything from parliament to banking to daily life, Hezbollah has a hand in it. So even in parts of Lebanon where Hezbollah is especially strong, for example, it provides better services than the Lebanese government, which is essentially paralyzed at the time being. So the attack gave a sense of how embedded into daily life Hezbollah is. Again, their parents, spouses, friends, doctors, healthcare workers, students, and employees. They're, the people that you see passing by you every single day. They're not all fighters holding weapons and fighting at the border. A lot of them are off duty, and a lot of the people that were injured and killed were also off duty, just doing their normal and daily lives. But another really provocative thing about this attack that's really important is that it also exposed their anonymity. Often the people who are Hezbollah fighters are kept secret. You might have a sense that this person, maybe has like a political allegiance or affiliation with Hezbollah, but you don't know whether they're a fighter or card-carrying member. So this attack really exposed their identities to the world as well.
One of the outcomes of this attack was that people were sharing on social media a lot of photos and a lot of videos, not only of the scenes, the panic, but the individuals. Do you think that this represents a second layer of a security breach besides the one that was immediately shown through the infiltration of the pagers and the walkie-talkies?
Absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, this operation was thought through well in advance, and they knew exactly what they were doing when they planned it. The first aspect of it is obviously shock and awe and maximum damage and perhaps psychologically terrifying the enemy into submission. But then the second and really large part of it is the security breach, because now Israel has videos and photos and evidence of the people that were holding devices that are used and meant for use by Hezbollah in order to intercept Israeli communication. So they can put faces, they have names, they have all sorts of intelligence. And also keep in mind that everyone that goes into the hospital also is recorded. And that goes to the health ministry. And I was speaking to digital experts in the past, and there have been many instances of hacks into government and ministry systems as well. So this is also yet another layer of security breaching.
Have you been able to gather any information on theories about how theoretically, presumably Israel or any other state or any other actor might be capable of conducting such a massive security breach? What do we know about the pagers and the walkie-talkies?
There is several theories. The first one is that explosives were at some point planted into the pagers and walkie-talkies before they were imported to Lebanon. And the second one is that some sort of glitch was exploited by the Israelis to allow the lithium batteries in the pagers and walkie-talkies to overheat. But the first theory is more prevalent. So what we know so far is that the pagers are branded by a Taiwanese company called Apollo Gold. But that company said it only outsourced its brand trademark to a Hungarian company called BAC Consulting. And the Hungarian government says that those pagers were never actually even in Hungary, and that the BAC Consulting Group is something that they called a trading intermediary. The New York Times is reporting that the BAC Consulting Group is an Israeli shell company, which in a nutshell could mean that at some point in the supply chain, if you ascribe to the first theory, Israel's Mossad agency could have easily filled those pagers with explosives before they were delivered to Lebanon. Still less is even known about the walkie-talkies. We know the brand, and I've seen theories, and we're working to confirm those theories because this incident just happened yesterday. What we do know about the walkie-talkies is that walkie-talkies, if explosives were planted into these handheld devices, could hold more explosives, which could also explain the higher death toll the second day. 20 people were killed and 450 were injured. So even though the injuries were much less than with the pager attacks, it was also less walkie-talkies that were potentially filled with explosives. But this attack was a lot more deadly.
We're talking to you about 5 hours before Hassan Nasrallah, the group's leader, is set to speak. We obviously don't know what he's going to say and whether his comments this time are going to be more scathing than previous ones. We have seen a lot of promises of retaliation against previous attacks on the group inside Lebanon's soil, but that seems to have been largely contained because what experts have been telling us, and I'm sure telling you, is nobody really wants a war. And if someone did, then we would have been in a war already. But do you think these recent attacks change that dynamic at all?
It's really hard to say because with previous instances, for example, when Hezbollah senior commander Fouad Shukr was assassinated, the day before Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh was assassinated in Iran, we were all saying, this is it. There might be a war after this. And then Hezbollah's response eventually was not as intense as everyone had expected it to be. And Iran, we've yet to see their reaction to that assassination as well. One thing that's really important to keep in mind is the day before these attacks happened and before all the pagers detonated, Israel had publicly announced that one of its main objectives in the war was that it would be taking the attention off of Gaza and Hamas and towards its north, where Hezbollah has a lot of control and where it's waging the majority of the battle against Israel. Their goal is to return the residents of northern Israel to the areas that have been evacuated, which to Israel would mean eradicating the threat that's posed by Hezbollah at the border. Now we have these attacks. I think one thing that's been consistent is that Hezbollah's rhetoric is very strong, but then when it comes time to responding to previous large attacks, they've always made it a point to show restraint and just fall short of allowing an all-out war to erupt. And the result that we see now is that this either has emboldened Israel to even go further in its attacks with, content in the knowledge that Hezbollah will not escalate it to the point of war, or they want a war to happen and they're goading Hezbollah into responding.
That's it on Beyond the Headlines this week. For the latest updates on this and more, visit thenationalnews.com. This episode was produced by Ban Barqawi and Arthur Edison. Yasmin Al-Taji is our assistant producer, Da'a Farid is our editor, and I'm your host, Nada Al-Tahir.